So a little bit about Silect Software, if you don't know already. We were founded in 2003, so we've been working with our customers for a long time now. We're in our 13th year working as a founding member of the System Center Alliance. So over that period of time, we've developed solutions that include a lot of very powerful features, authoring solutions. We perform auditing and management, as well as reporting and testing for System Center Operations Manager and Configuration Manager. By now, you're certainly familiar with our Operations Manager products, both MP Studio and MP Author. We'll be looking at MP Author today. I'll talk a little bit about MP Studio just in case you're not aware. I'll refer to some of the integration points between MP Author and MP Studio. We also have some products for the Config Manager space. We have a ConfigWise reporting tool, which is a part of a services-based solution. So if you're running SCCM and you're having difficulty with the native reporting, we can certainly help you with that. We also have an authoring tool on the SCCM side, and that's CP Studio. CP Studio is used for authoring baselines that can be consumed and leveraged inside SCCM. So, for example, you can create security compliance baselines using CP Studio. And it has a full lifecycle management capabilities, including a database, so we can do very similar things to MP Studio in terms of auditing, change and reporting, etc., simulation of baselines. We're very proud of the fact that worldwide we have well over 5,000 users of MP Author. So very popular product. One of the reasons for that is it's free, but as you'll see in the presentation today, it makes it easy for IT, operations manager, administrators to start building your own management packs. And wide range of customers from finance, insurance, big oil, so on and so forth, retail, you name it, worldwide, a lot of great customers. And with so many customers, it helps us build better products. So we're always interested in feedback. In fact, I'll mention it now at the end of the presentation today, there will be a short survey that will also be included in a follow-up email. So I would encourage you later to go through that, and if you don't mind, fill out that survey. Appreciate it. Okay, a little bit of an introduction to MP Author. This is a free management pack tool. Okay, so we work very closely with Microsoft and the community. A lot of MVPs had input, and we think that now at SB6, I believe we're looking at a fairly mature authoring tool. So you can design and develop management packs for homegrown applications, or perhaps you've got a vendor who has not provided a management pack, or maybe you just want to scale back a management pack that does a whole bunch of things, and you just want to create your own to look at maybe four basic things so you know the application is healthy. So you can do that with MP Author. You can also customize some existing management packs. So you might actually move between, Ops Manager Console, MP Author, MP Studio, and you can continue to work with the management pack. So you might author a management pack in one location, add to it, and then use MP Studio, for example, to manage overrides, or to test your management pack, or to document your management pack. So the whole process does involve multiple tools. One of the things I think you'll appreciate the most about MP Author is that it's a wizard-driven tool. And we'll pre-populate a lot of the settings for you. Even something as simple as a naming convention can really create problems if you don't have a naming convention. So we'll start out, asking you for various pieces of information, what you want to monitor, what kind of monitor you want to create, and then we'll use that information collected in order to build a naming convention. And of course, you can customize that as you go as well. Okay, so with the authoring tool, you can create and configure discoveries, targets, rules, and monitors, and more. You can also create folders, views, you can create knowledge, so we'll take a look at some of that very shortly. And also a brief introduction to MP Studio. This really allows you to look at the full life cycle of your management pack. So you can do everything from basic reporting on the configuration and documentation, but then move on to things as sophisticated as more advanced authoring capabilities. So there'll be another session, I believe it's one day next week. You can visit our website and our events calendar if you want to register for the advanced authoring webinar. MP Studio really does a great job of override management. You can manage overrides for individual elements, but you can also do them in bulk. Do a bulk disable or enable, for example. It might be something just as simple as that, or perhaps you have a common property that you want to configure for many rules or many monitors at the same time. So very powerful override management capabilities. Because there's a database backend for MP Studio, we can implement version control and extend that out to providing automated auditing. So seamlessly track changes for you. With MP Studio, you can also go out and look at workflows. In other words, if you want to see what rules, monitors, and discoveries are running on any given agent, MP Studio generates a very cool report. I refer to it as the silver bullet report. With this report, you can actually see the overrides and see them directly with the elements that they reference. Okay, so you can also test management packs and from the test results determine the noisiest rules and monitors. And these are important things when you're authoring your own management packs. So I'm not just trying to steer you to MP Studio for advanced authoring. This really extends your authoring capabilities. And as you're authoring management packs, it'll be important to document. It'll be important to be able to manage overrides for them. And as that management pack changes, you will want version control and the ability to test those management packs. So MP Studio really extends what you can do in terms of authoring management packs. Okay, so what we'll do next is we're going to switch to MP Author console. So this is MP Author, and really when you fill out the download request on our website, you'll be given an option to download MP Studio. And when you install MP Studio, it's actually a combined installer. So you install MP Studio and MP Author at the same time. So right now we're just looking at MP Author. Perhaps refer to that install a little bit more towards the end if we have time for that. So just a little bit here of orientation. From here you can go in and review some of the help information. So just how to get started. Click on the link and the text here will guide you through the process. Okay, so that getting started page can be very helpful. And as Harold just mentioned, if you have any questions, you can post those in the QA window, and we'll do our best to get answers for you during the session. Otherwise, we'll send a follow-up afterwards. Okay, so to get started, we're going to launch the wizard by clicking on the New button. And this will launch the wizard. And so this just gives a bit of an outline to what we'll step through. We're going to create the manifest, specify a folder to save the management pack. Assuming you don't have MP Studio, you'll be saving all of these locally. If you have MP Studio, you'll be saving the management pack into the store database. You can also create references, select the default references, and then get on with authoring your management packs. So let's click next. So the first thing we want to do is create a name for our management pack, and this needs to be a unique identifiable name. And I'm just going to, let's try this. I'm going to add the word demo on the start of this. So demo Silect new MP, and then I can specify the version number for this. So you don't have to stick with 1000. You can customize this any way you wish. And so I'm just going to modify that. So you can modify the friendly name, and there's a bit of a description here. That information could be useful down the road. If you have a team authoring management packs, it'll be nice to know who created that management pack. Okay, and so next I'm being prompted whether or not I want to save this to the store database. I do happen to have MP Studio running in the background, so this is where I would save the management pack. And so if you're doing an eval, if you own MP Studio, my recommendation is to save it to the store. That way you're tracking versions, etc. So let's do this. I'm going to switch that, and we'll save this to the file system. Perhaps later we'll take a look at saving it to the store just briefly, so you have a sense of what I'm talking about there. Okay, so now we need to determine if we want to add any references. You can see these are the default references that we're going to work with. Because I have MP Studio installed, it makes it a lot easier for me to add optional references. So I could use that button in the bottom right-hand corner, click Add Optional References, and this gives you a little bit of an insight to the MP Studio store database. Here I've got the rest of my management packs, and so I could easily add any of those, Microsoft management packs, for example, as a reference. Okay, so we won't add any additional references. I'll just select Next. And so now we need to determine, what kind of an MP do we want to create. So we could just create an empty management pack. That's one option, and then open that up and start adding discoveries, rules, monitors, etc. to it. We could choose, and this is the one we'll do today, a single server application. This will simply allow us to create a management pack to target a single component. However, if you've got a distributed application with perhaps a front end, a middle tier, and then a back end database, perhaps you've got a web service as your front end, or a web application as your front end, and then you might have a middle tier and then a back end database. You might want to create something a little bit more sophisticated. You can do that with MP Author as well. So let's start with our single server application. And that will launch the wizard. You can see the table of contents down the left-hand side. These are the steps we're going through. We'll complete the role definition, then the monitor definition, and then a roll-up algorithm, and then we can go ahead and create the management pack. So in order to define the role or the target that the MP will monitor, we have three options here. We could use a registry setting, we could use a script setting, or a WMI setting. I'll use the registry setting today. And here's another table of contents. These are the steps we're going to go through in the wizard, and this will guide us through the complete process. So, if you are really good at typing and your registry data very well, you could choose to do that manually, but it's much easier to specify a computer on your system that you can just browse out to. And this really, is a part of the value add, in that you can just browse out and select a registry value from that application server on your network. Okay, so I'll just use my laptop for purposes of the demo. Okay, so we need to select the registry values for our target discovery and optionally select properties. Okay, so I'll click on the Browse button. Let's go into HKey Local Machine, Software, and now we can come in here and let's see what we've got. If we've got something interesting, I could come in and pick, okay, not so much in there. Let's see, maybe we'll go up and we'll pick iTunes. Okay, so we'll just, once we've found the value we want to select, then we can choose the Add button, and now we're ready. Just simply select OK. And there's our registry value for the discovery. Okay, we could choose to add an optional property, or we could add multiple values in here. Why don't we do that just for the fun of it? I'm going to add a second one in here, and let's go with perhaps a version. Click OK. Now we're ready to move on to the next field, and that is to identify the target. And so what you're seeing here is that auto creation of the naming convention. And this is based on the information I selected in the previous dialog. So you really don't have to think about that. I do recommend that you think about it because you might find this particular naming convention a little bit long. At some point in the future, we hope to add a little bit of a better way for you to create your formula for the auto naming convention. But for now, this is how it works. It's a lot better than having to come up with a name on the fly, and you can come in here and further modify this, you know, just maybe to give a demonstration. I can add to it or remove some of this information here. Okay, so the whole idea, however, is to just, you know, have a standard and make it easier for you to get started authoring your management packs. Okay, next we need to specify our base class. Okay, so you'll find from the drop-down list, you can go in and choose from the list. Let's go with the Windows computer in this case. And once again, because we're authoring the discovery at the same time here, the auto naming convention is kicked in. Here's the name for our discovery. Notice that it's enabled by default. Maybe you want to change that. Maybe you don't want these enabled by default. So you could modify that here. Okay, and next is to specify the discovery target class. I'm going to leave that as Windows Computer. Select Next. Now, because I had added two separate registry values, I do have the flexibility here to customize this a little bit more. So I can create a logical expression here for these register values, whether I want either one or both. I can also configure this to just check for the existence of the registry values. So I'm going to keep it simple. We'll check for the existence of those registry values. Select Next. And now we can configure our discovery period. So the default is to run this once a day. That's certainly not unreasonable. You can modify that to just, you know, a little caution going with anything too short. However, at the end of your authoring, once you're complete, you can run a few tools that will help you. For example, the best practice analyzer. So if you were to set this value to something like minutes, it would definitely catch that and warn you that setting is probably not going to work out very well. So we'll leave that set to 1 day. Click Next. So we've gone through that entire wizard. It's just a few steps to it, and we've created the target and discovery at the same time. Click Finish, and now we're done. So you could create additional targets here. Perhaps we'll just open up a couple of these so you can see what that would look like. So if you've got a script, you can just browse out and select that script. Maybe you want to, customize the script body a little bit more from here, and then complete that wizard. Okay, you could also use WMI setting. Perhaps we'll take a look at that wizard set a little bit later in the presentation. And let's click Next, and we'll go and move on to the monitor definition. So with MP Author, you can create several different types of monitors. To get started, just simply click on the New button. We have options to create a database monitor. We can create an event monitor, performance monitor, script monitor, service monitor, or a website monitor. So lots of flexibility here. We're going to let's create a couple of these. I'll start with creating an event monitor. And so once again, you could do this manually if you wish, but it's much better to use the browsing option. You can browse out to the server that's hosting the application you're creating this management pack for, and it'll obviously have all the different log files that you potentially want to work with. And as you'll see when we browse out here, it's connecting to that server, my local laptop, but if you were, sorry, I did not need to hit the browse button. That's only if you want to browse out and find the application, the server on your network. And I don't need to do that because I'm working with my laptop. Just hit Next. And so now we can select the event log we want to work with. Okay, so this is why you would browse out to that server hosting your application. The event log you're looking for might not be on my laptop, right? So just browse out to that server and pick the log file that you want to work with. Now you can build an expression. So in this particular case, the default shows event ID and event source, and some additional configuration options here. We'll work with the event ID equals, and then just using that drop-down box, here are the event IDs, various event IDs that I've got in my application log. I'll pick the event 10,000. That's perfect. I know exactly what that is. Okay, and in terms of the second part of this expression, let's just have a look at what's available in here. So we could specify event category, event ID, or level, so on and so forth. You've got user, log name, computer, etc. So all the event parameters are also options in there. Let's stick with the event source, and once again we'll leave it at equals. Using that drop-down box on the right-hand side, I can pick the event source based on what was discovered here. I don't know, maybe we want to pick the iPod service. Okay, so now we need to select a target for this monitor, and that looks good. That's the one I created earlier. We want to use that. Some flexibility in terms of the parent monitor. Do you want availability or configuration, etc.? I'm just going to stick with the defaults for now. Okay, so now we can move on to specify the healthy timer or event. Okay, so perhaps what we're looking for is another event to tell us, okay, this particular situation is healthy now, and we're going to detect an event that tells us that. And we could build an expression. We're simply going to use an event ID equals, and this time we'll go with, say, 10,001. And next up, the naming convention kicks in here once again for us. This is really long, let's call it verbose name, and so you're probably going to want to shorten that up. But just to make sure that you understand what we've done here, scrolling to the right, this is based on all the information that was collected in the previous wizard steps. Okay, so you could shorten that up to something that will be easier to work with. I'll leave it like that for now. Select next. Okay, and we could further customize the health state for this monitor. And that's just brought right into the wizard here. I'm not going to change these, but just to give you an idea what the options are in here, we could change this to critical, warning, or healthy. We'll leave it at warning. And you could customize those. So bringing into the wizard an option to specify an alert for your event monitor just makes it that much easier. You can take care of this simply by checking the checkbox. We want this to generate an alert for this monitor. Not all monitors will necessarily generate an alert for you, or you may not want that for all your monitors, but you can configure that if you want to generate alerts. So a lot of it is, well, all of it is defaulted for you, but you can go in here and further customize this. So perhaps you want this to generate an alert when the health state changes to just to error. Okay, so you could change that. Maybe you don't want this alert to be automatically resolved at first. Maybe you want to make sure that alert doesn't, you want to make sure you don't miss the fact that it happened. So you could deselect that for a period of time and then afterwards change that back to automatically resolve. Okay, there's the naming convention. We can modify the priority and the severity in here as well. These are just default values, so feel free to experiment with those as well as you customize your monitor. And then the description has been pre-populated for you as well. Okay, but you can now go in and customize this even further. So you might want to add additional information, and we'll just have a peek at some of the options. So there are a few buttons to the right there. You could add different data points in here, maybe an additional event number, process ID, etc. And you just go in there and pick that information from the list. Additional target information is available just to make it a lot easier for you to build out that description. Okay, selecting next. So we can review what we've done here. There's the information. Just click Finish. And that is now done. We've got a couple of minor steps left. We might want to go in and create additional monitors here. Why don't we just go in, we'll take a look at a couple more of these. Let's create a performance monitor. Again, I'll just use my laptop. And so this is discovering all the performance characteristics on my laptop. I just need to go in from the pick list and configure what I want to monitor. So for example, I could go in and change object to process, and then let's look at percent processor time. And for the instance, I could be more specific. I started out to work with iTunes. I'm running here on my laptop, and so perhaps I want to look at that a little bit closer. Or let's see, what else have we got in the list here. Here's MP Studio itself. Okay, so lots of flexibility there, but now I'll just finish up by configuring the number of samples, your sample rate. And here's my target. It's defaulted. This is the one we created earlier, but you don't have to use that. You can go in and pick something different if you wish. Same goes for parent monitor. Now, to make things really easy for you, we've added an option here to also create a rule to collect the performance data. So let's do that. So we'll have that rule already created for us. Select Next. And there's that naming convention. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but it's just, the idea here is to make it easy for you so you've got something standard. But I'd encourage you to come up with your own naming convention here and go ahead and customize that if you wish. And so now we can specify the threshold for this performance monitor. Right now the number of samples is just set to 1, so let's bump that up. Anything but 1, for example, would allow us to then go in and pick, you know, the type of performance monitor and set a threshold. So we could either create an average or a consecutive type performance monitor. And for threshold, we have some options here. We're going to set this value to, say, 50 just to pick a somewhat random value. Now, if we want to, we can customize the health state. We'll leave that as it is. Select Next. We also want this one to generate an alert. Just check that checkbox and then evaluate the rest of these settings to make sure they make sense for you. Auto resolve, we'll leave that on. You might want to look at modifying the priority. I'm just going to bump the severity up on this to demonstrate that capability, and you could add additional targets or data, etc., group information to this description if you wish. And that's it. We've created an additional monitor here. Let's create one more and then we'll move on. I'd like to create a service monitor here. And here's our options. There's the target defaulted for us. We're going to leave that parent monitor as availability. And now I can just scroll through the services that were discovered on my laptop. And browse until you find the one you want to work with. There's the MP Studio testing service. We could use that. We'll leave this enabled by default. Accept the naming, the default name. Evaluate the health state. We also want this to generate an alert, and we'll set the priority on this one to high as well. Let's bump up the severity. We don't want that. We don't want to miss that alert. Okay, so we've created 3 different types of monitors here. And we're just about finished the starting point of creating this management pack. Now we need to define the roll-up algorithm. So most of the time you're just going to want to stick with the worst of. However, you could choose to choose the roll-up algorithm as best of if you wish here. Okay, so that's it. We have created several monitors here. We should have at least one rule. I see there are some questions coming in, and we'll do our best to answer those eventually. Perhaps at the end of the session I'll step through those and we'll make sure we talk about each of those. Okay, so we're looking at now the MP Author console. And down the left-hand side, we can see the MP components that we've authored, the details panel in the middle, and then over on the right-hand side, we can see the properties view edit options. Let's just take a look because I want to make sure I demonstrate this or show the options in here. If you just simply right-click at the very top on your management pack name, you'll see some options in here that you're eventually going to want to leverage. If we were done with this management pack, we might want to deploy it, but certainly there are some other things we'll want to do first. You can use MP Author to seal the management pack, but even before you do that, you probably want to run the best practices analyzer. After you've sealed your management pack, you probably want to run the MP verify. So you've got lots of options in here to extend your work. If you've got MP Studio, I'd certainly recommend saving it into MP Studio and doing a few other things first, like generating some reports, testing the management pack, which is a simulation. Perhaps I'll show MP Studio at the end of the session so you can see some of that. I'm just aware of the time and we got started a bit late here, but hopefully we'll have some time at the end to have a quick peek at MP Studio as well. Okay, so let's, now that we've gone through that initial wizard and created the management pack, maybe you want to do some additional authoring, so we're going to do a little bit of that. First, let's take a look at the monitors that we've already authored. Here you can see we've created 4 monitors. We should have a rule in here. If you remember on the one wizard set, we had checked a checkbox at the bottom to automatically create the rule to collect that performance information at the same time. So there's the rule that we had created. If we go into this, we should be able to also see, let's take a look. There's our targets that we had created earlier as well. Okay, so before we author any more rules, I'd just like to show you when you've got that first set of rules or monitors created, perhaps you want to do some additional modifications from here. So you can select the monitor, and then on the right-hand side, you'll see that Properties View Edit window. Anything that's shown in bold here, you can further customize. So for example, you might want to change the name. You know, maybe at the time you're first using the product, you weren't really too sure about customizing that naming convention. You could come in here and modify that. So you can make changes to anything that's bold in here. Maybe something a little more common might be something like the enabled status. So if I just go down to where the enabled status is, there's an option in there to modify the enabled status. So let's see what else have we got in there. Remotable, confirm delivery, you can customize that information. All right, so you can use that Properties View Edit. That's one option for customizing. Another option would be to right-click on the monitor itself. Perhaps we'll just pick a different one this time. You could right-click and choose to View Edit the XML. So this gets a little bit beyond my own personal scope for authoring, but certainly you could come in here and do things like, here's auto resolve. So if I want to change that, I could come in here and modify to false. So you've got lots of flexibility in terms of making changes. Just a little caution when working inside the XML itself, but if you've got experience there and you're comfortable, you can actually do other things in here as well. So we'll go ahead and apply that. Close that. Let's also take a look at some of the other options in here. Perhaps you just want to do some documentation. You can copy and paste that into a spreadsheet if you wish. Use the select all and then copy and paste it into a spreadsheet if you want to document those items. Much richer documentation available inside MP Studio, so I would encourage you to save the MP there and work with the documentation out of MP Studio for sure. Okay, another option in MP Author is the ability to create knowledge. And this is very popular amongst our customers of both MP Studio and users of MP Author. Simply because you don't require Visual Studio or Office tools in order to be able to author knowledge. When you're authoring knowledge in MP Author, this will be vendor knowledge. Okay, so just as Microsoft authors knowledge for their management packs, you could author knowledge for your own. When you seal that management pack, then other users will be able to access that knowledge base article. And if they want to create additional knowledge and save that in an override management pack, and I'm talking internal consumers of the management pack you author, they could create company knowledge. So what we're looking at here is authoring the vendor knowledge. So just to give you something to see here in terms of authoring that, you could create knowledge in the summary section or configuration section, so on and so forth. Okay. So authoring knowledge, I encourage you to do that. Just make it easier for people who are going to have to work with that management pack afterwards. Okay, so we've had a look at that knowledge authoring piece, and let's now go down. I want to take a look at some of the rules here, and we'll create a new, let's go in and take a look at creating an event rule. And this will be similar, so similar to what we saw when we were creating the event monitor. So I'm just going to step through this rather quickly. Okay, so it's discovered the various logs on my laptop, and the experience here is going to be the same, but this is just authoring a rule, and as opposed to a monitor. Select your target, your desired target. I'm going to leave that as Windows Computer. Here's the naming convention. Okay, so do we want this to simply collect data, or do we also want to generate an alert? Lots of flexibility there. Again, you could modify your alert priority or alert severity. I'm just going to bump both of those up a little bit. And then here's my display name and alert description. So you might want to add to either of those. Set a schedule for this. I can set this to run periodically. Maybe I want this to run every 15 minutes. This is really important to me. So, or I could set that to run daily. Okay, so we've now authored a rule in here as well. Okay, so it's 10:50. I did mention I wanted to demonstrate a couple of other things, integration points with MP Studio. So just before I go there, let's take a look at some of the other options in here. If you now want to go in and create some additional targets, you could create a new group. You could create a registry target, a script target, or a WMI target. Okay, so these options are, just if you are not sure during the initial wizard, you decide afterwards, I want to go in and create something else. Okay, you can also create folders and views. Perhaps you noticed when we're looking at the options for targets, new class was grayed out. And that's considered an advanced authoring feature. That's available in MP Studio. Let's see what else with monitors. There are a couple of monitors. If you were to right-click inside MP Author, you'll see there are a few of these that are grayed out. And that includes a process monitor, dependency rollup monitor, and the aggregate rollup monitor. So those are options available. They're considered advanced authoring options. They're only available in MP Studio. Okay, so let's do this. I'm going to demonstrate some of the integration points with MP Studio at this point, and let's do it this way. What I'm going to do is choose to save this management pack in the store database, and then I'm going to switch over to MP Studio. Let's do this. Save as to the store. And I've already got a folder in the MP Studio database with my name on it. This is my sandbox for saving new management packs. Okay, so we've saved that management pack in there. We can just very quickly go to, this is the MP Studio console, and here's the management pack that we just saved into the store database. And I'm going to come back briefly, and I just want to make a couple of quick edits here to demonstrate the auditing capability. So let's do this. I am going to randomly delete one of these monitors. Let's go in. I've got another one selected. Let's change the priority in the Properties View Edit. We'll just change the priority to high. Let's pick another one of these monitors. And we're going to modify the confirm delivery. Okay, so we've made a few changes there, and you'll notice in the MP Author tab, just above here where I've got my mouse, we've got the version number 1003 with an asterisk. That asterisk tells you this management pack has not been saved. Okay, so what we're going to do, whoops, that's not what I wanted. We're going to save this back to the store database. And what we're looking at now is just a preview of the audit of the changes. So the one we just decided to check into the store, it's being compared to the first one we put in there. And this is a preview. We can see that we're incrementing the version number. This is very important, right? You want to make sure you're always working with the latest and greatest version. We can see the number of edits, 3 deletions and 6 changes. And in fact, down below, you can see more details about it. You could add some comments in here, why the change was made, who requested the change, maybe it's a work order number, why was it changed from false to true? Well, because. Why was it changed from normal to high, or who, who doesn't really matter, because as you can see with the MP Studio store database, we're actually tracking who made the change and the time of the change as well. So we'll just save that into the store database. If I added, let's just quickly, you've seen the wizard here a bunch of times, so I'm going to quickly add one rule here. I'm just going to accept the defaults here for the sake of time. And this is a new view, so maybe I'll just mention this. You have some additional options here for this rule. You may want to create a view, and so you've got the flexibility to do that right from here. You could specify a folder for this. You may want to save this information to the data warehouse. You could even create a linked report from here. Set the schedule. Okay, now we're going to, we see the asterisks here, we're going to save this back to the store. One more time. Here's a preview of the audit history. You could add some comments. Click Save. Okay, so we've made several changes. I'm just going to minimize MP Author. We'll go back to MP Studio, and here is the folder where we've been saving the management pack. We can see the various versions in here. I'm probably just, rather than demonstrate all the options, I'll probably show you some of the context menu options just so you've got that information. From here, I can generate an audit history report. I can schedule that audit history report and have it automatically drop the report into a folder that I specify. You could set up email subscriptions, so if you're authoring this management pack, as you make changes, you can have the audit history report sent to various team members or to your manager. Okay, so lots of flexibility there. Let's have a quick look at that audit history report. And you'll see the details on the right. If I want to customize this grid a little bit, probably what I'm going to do first is let's group by change by. So if multiple people are working on that MP, you could very easily separate that out. You could also group by the time added to the store database if you're looking for specific changes. Here we can see some of those changes. I can export that to Excel, very easily document the audit history. That audit history will have the same customized grouping as we saw in MP Studio. Probably before we deploy this management pack, I'm going to want to do some things like perhaps compare it to the one in production. Okay, so I could compare this management pack in order to see the differences. Certainly before I deploy it, I'll want to test this management pack. And let's just quickly step through the wizard so you can see what this is all about. You specify a server on your network that you want to test the management pack against. If that server has an operations manager agent, then this test will work for you. So this is a simulation. If I just went against a local host, we're not going to run the test. It'll take several minutes to do it. I just want to show you the wizard so you get the idea here. But if you've got local admin access to that server you are testing against, you can simulate the management pack running on that server. So I might want the test to run 5 minutes. You could set the test to run for a day. You can delay the test, set sample rates for collecting event data and perfmon data, and that's it. I'm going to cancel out there because that's the last step in setting up the test, and this will show you how many alerts will be generated by that management pack in a given time frame. That won't generate alerts in your SCOM environment. It's only going to show those alerts in MP Studio. Okay, so from that, you might want to create overrides, etc. You might want to do some additional authoring from here. If I want to add to this management pack, I can just simply click View Edit. So now, this is the same authoring window you saw in MP Author. So if you've got MP Studio, here's the way you would author. Now, I just simply right-click, and as you can see, with MP Studio, I've got the advanced authoring capabilities, creating process monitor, creating dependency rollup monitor, aggregate rollup monitor, etc. So you can extend that management pack, add to it, create overrides, all that good stuff. And now, assuming you're ready to deploy that management pack, I could go up to the store, run the group comparison. It can be scheduled as well. Let's just quickly look at this because this is your deployment option. I'm going to compare my management group to what's in the store database. Now let me just quickly customize this a little bit. And from here, we should be able to find the management pack that we just developed. And here it is. We can see the version of it, and we can see it does not exist in this management group. So right from here, if I had multiple management groups, they would all show up. And you can then deploy that management pack out to your management groups. Okay, I'm aware we're 1 minute over. We started late. I really appreciate everybody hanging on here. And so I'm going to end the demo at this point. I'd like to just spend a few minutes with you looking at the questions here and see if I can answer some of those questions for you now. Certainly, let me just send out my email address in the chat window. I do want to remind you that we will be sending out a survey, and be very nice if you guys would all take a minute and answer that survey. And if you do have any questions, you are welcome to submit those now as well. And you should have my email address in the chat window now as well. And if you would like to see more information on MP Studio, I invite you to go to our calendar on our website at www.silect.com. You can register for that presentation. If you'd like to spend a little more time together, a one-on-one web session, I'd be happy to do that for you and show you all the cool things in MP Studio that we really didn't get to look at today. We could take a look at some of those advanced authoring capabilities. If you download MP Author, when you fill out the form, there's an option to check yes. If you check yes, we will send you the download link for MP Studio. And you can run the authoring in MP Studio. Just simply, create a folder in the store database, and there you can now launch the authoring within MP Studio by choosing Create New Management Pack. And it's the same wizards, it just has the additional advanced authoring capabilities there for you. Okay, so